This is Gran Turismo 5 Prologue for the PlayStation 3. We finally get a Gran Turismo game on the PS3, and this game is phenomenal, but it's not perfect. The Gran Turismo series has been one of my favorite video game series since 1998 when I got the first one for my PlayStation 1. And this game has the best driving of any video game I've ever played. The cockpit view is incredible. And more so than any other game in GT5 Prologue, you can feel the difference between every car you're driving and how it handles. This game is missing the car upgrades where you can do the weight reduction and add more horsepower, but in a way I think it's better because that's kind of been overdone. The sense of speed is much faster in this game when you're playing with the cockpit mode, so you don't need to just jack up the horsepower for that feeling of speed. You're getting a much more realistic portrayal of how the cars actually handle. And I gotta say, I like that. Because given the option to add 1,000 horsepower into any car, of course we all do it. But in this game, you just don't need that. Even the small front-wheel drive cars feel like they're moving pretty quick. The cockpit view just blows me away because for once it feels like you're really driving the car and not just playing a video game. And mind you, I'm a huge fan of Forza too, but I'm also a fan of the Gran Turismo series. They're both a little different, each has their strengths, but let's get to GT5 Prologue. As incredible as the driving is, this game is very small for what you'd expect for the Gran Turismo series. And sure, it's called Gran Turismo 5 Prologue because apparently the entire Gran Turismo 5 is going to come out at a later date. Now the game does come with a lower price point. You only get about 40 cars or so and 6 tracks. This is part 1 of a 2-part review. I'm starting with the game basics at this point, and part 2 will go into the online play and the advanced car selection. The menus in this game are very bizarre, and they're really bad. It's like they tried to do too much and make it too fancy with the menus. When you're trying to select the color for your car, they're automatically changing the camera angles, and it's just very distracting. I don't care for that. These are the 6 tracks that they give you. Some good ones. You have Suzuka, Fuji, Daytona. I don't care for the London track very much, but I never like those city tracks with lots of shadows. The game has your arcade mode and then your standard simulation mode. And like all the Gran Turismo games, you start off with a couple bucks, you buy a cheap car, and you start off at the lowest class and work your way up until you can finally afford the monster cars like the Skyline and the Ferraris and whatnot. The graphics of this game are incredible. They look amazing in high definition. They look amazing in standard definition. I do think the graphics are a step up from Forza 2. Here we have the high speed ring. You might remember that from the original Gran Turismo. I'm very disappointed this version of the game doesn't have Trial Mountain and Grand Valley and some of the other amazing original courses that they had in Gran Turismo 4. But I'm only complaining because I just expect so much out of the Gran Turismo series because it's one of the greatest video game series of all time. And Polyphony Digital has done a tremendous job with this video game. Let's get back to some of the positives. We have the brand new Nissan GT-R. I've always loved the Skyline in these games. The cockpit view is so well rendered that you can see every subtle nuance and detail on the dashboard. This Prologue version is definitely missing the immense supply of cars and tracks that Gran Turismo 4 had, and I'm still completely confused as to why this wasn't a launch title for the PlayStation 3, because all of us Gran Turismo fanatics would have immediately run out and bought a PS3 and the new Gran Turismo game without question if they'd have just released this when the PS3 was launched. I'm sure they had a reason. I don't know what it is, but they have obviously put a lot of time into this game. And if this is any indication of what the full version is going to look like with a lot of tracks and a lot of cars, then I must say that I'm eagerly looking forward to it. Because yes, this is certainly a much smaller, bite-sized Gran Turismo, And I stayed up till 2 a.m. the first day I got this and did as much driving as I could to get myself that new Nissan. I gotta say, this game is going to keep me occupied for a while, because the driving with the cockpit view is tremendously fun, and it literally puts you in the driver's seat and just blows you away. This game is fucking amazing. This game doesn't have damage in it, and I thought that was really going to bother me, but to be honest with you, it hasn't. I think that the damage in Forza 2 is awesome, and it makes that game more challenging in many respects. But this game is interesting because it's more realistic to drive, but you don't have that added frustration of crashing into something on the last lap and just losing the entire race. Because when you really get down to it, you're just playing a video game and you want to relax and have a good time.